Hey, if you're tuning in and you're watching this live stream, this is the first live stream I'm making. Um, I'm thinking maybe I could wait a little bit until a few more people drop in, or I could just get started right now. Let me know what you guys want to see. Okay, I'll just go ahead and get started with some basics. From the event description, I'm going to be trying to make a Space Invaders app inside PowerApps. And when I make an app for the very first time, I'm always looking at some things to get some inspiration. Here, I'm going to look at the original Space Invaders game, doing a search, and get an idea of how I want to make this and what kind of controls I'm going to need. I'm going to get OneNote started as well. That's where I'm going to take some of my notes. Okay. Looks like this site is not working. I'll try another one with Space Invaders. Okay, once I get the gist of how the original Space Invaders works, I'll be able to make it inside PowerApps. Just gonna play a little bit here. All right, so I know I need like a left and right scroller. That much I could already make. I'm thinking that these houses right here are probably gonna be a gallery of like 4 items. And they probably have like a status of like how many hits it's taken and the location of the hit. So I'm gonna have a gallery there. All these monsters at the top, I'm probably gonna have a gallery for that. And shooting. Sending this is probably going to be an animation. And I'll probably have some toggles for having something hit. Okay, so let me write that stuff down in PowerApps. I'm gonna put these side by side. So the things that I want to see. Okay, a WASD scroller at the bottom. A gallery for the houses with the number of hits it's taken. A gallery for the invaders with some toggle that shows if it's hit. Animations for the missiles. Okay, we'll get started with that much for now. Let me check questions. Oh, if you do have questions, just ask them on the side and I'll try to answer it as I'm making it. Okay, so I'm going to pause the game if I can. I'll just reload it. All right, I'll go ahead and get started in create.powerapps.com. I'll start this in a tablet app. I figure I probably want more of the lateral space. Okay, I'm going to insert some images, just some basic images. Just some stand-in images for now. Okay, 1 second. Just something to represent my spaceship. For now, my spaceship, I don't have the original images, so I'll just use one of these. I'll make this my spaceship. And then we'll keep everything those as that picture for now, just so that we have something to stand in. Okay. So one of the first things I'm going to build in is a WASD scroller at the bottom. The way I do that is I have a few text input fields. Okay, let me scroll in and make this full screen. The WASD fields, or I mean, these text input fields are going to be how I set what kind of key input I want. Okay, so the first one, I'm going to set it equal to W. Next one, A, S, and D. Okay. The reason why I use a text input is so that the person who runs this app can change it to another input. Beside that, I'm going to insert some toggles. This toggle is going to detect when somebody types in W. Okay. Down here, this text input field is going to be where users type in something, the WASD. I'm going to keep it blank. Okay, I'm going to program this first one, and then we'll replicate it for each of these. The default property of this text input, or this toggle, I'm going to set it so that if the last character, if I take the rightmost character in text input 5, the rightmost character, it equals text input equals this thing over here, this will trigger on. Just to show you what I'm talking about, I typed in W, it's the rightmost letter, so this turns on. It's going to perform some actions when it turns on. If I type in something else, it's not going to trigger. I'm going to repeat that for the other controls, and let me go ahead and rename this. So I do it now. Input up, toggle, we'll call this toggle up. Okay, let's put some actions here. For now, the action that I'll put is I'll reset that text input field. Text input 5. Let me finish naming these. Text input 4, this is right. Input right. S is going to be input down. And A is going to be input left. Let me just switch these around, just so up and down are side by side. And this input box down here, we'll just call it the input. So I'm repeating this toggle for each of these letters. That second toggle, I'm going to set it so that when the rightmost letter equals input down, perform the action. If this is equal to input left, trigger those actions, and input right. Okay. Let's insert a picture on the screen. This picture is going to be that bug. Okay, I'm going to move this creature across the screen based on these things. So when this is checked, it will move this creature up. So I'm going to use a variable to determine the location of this creature. Set, call it the X position. Actually, that should be the Y position because we're going up. I'm going to set it so that the Y position subtracts 10 pixels. The reason why I'm subtracting 10 pixels is I want to move up. And up is in the negative direction. Okay. Let's also put a reset on the screen so that I reset the location. I set the X, the Y position to 0. Go ahead and set the X position to 0 as well. Oh, that's the reset button. Okay, so when I push W, it's going to subtract 10 to this current position. And I'll set this position, this Y position, to that Y position variable. I'm going to copy that same formula here. This time, if I'm going down, I want to add 10 pixels. So anytime I push S, it's going to bring this creature down. I'm going to copy that formula here as well, except I'm going to change the variable from X position to Y, or from Y position to X position. Left is going to subtract 10 pixels, and the right side is going to add 10 pixels. Okay, let's put this into practice. Oh, one more thing. This creature needs to have its X position set to that variable X position. So anytime I'm typing in, if I type in D, it's going to the right. If I'm pushing A or S, it's going down. If I'm pushing A, it's going left, and I'm pushing W, it's going up. Okay, so I have the basics here. Let's make this, let's give a variable amount of distance to move. So this creature, right now each of these are subtracting 10 static amount. Let's set it equal to slider1.value. That way I could, maybe I'm not happy with 10. Maybe I'm not happy with 10 and I want to change it to another value. I can set it in here. I'll repeat that for each of these. And I'll go ahead and rename this. This is the move increment. And let's make it 25 for now. So before I was moving 10, now I'm moving 25. That should be better. Okay, now in Space Invaders, we actually don't need W and S. We're not going up and down. We're really just going left and right. All right, so I have my WASD set. Let me check if you have any questions. Let me check this one off. I have my WASD set. Okay, I'm going to set a gallery that has the numbers of the hits that each of those houses take. I'll find a quick picture for the houses. And I'm going to use a collection to give them each like a certain amount of life. Then we'll be able to show some of the damage with different pictures. For our purposes, we won't need all the pictures at this time. Let me just put this down. Get pictures for different stages of a house being hit. Okay, so we'll need pictures for that. Make a collection of HP for the, make a collection of HP for each of the houses. Okay. Go back into the app. This reset button, let's make it create some houses for us with a collection. I'm going to clear collect. All these houses. First house is going to be ID 1. The houses will have an ID number. They will have a hit points number. Let's see how many hits. How many hits can it take? Okay, going back to the Wikipedia page, hit points. For now, let's just set it to 10. I don't recall the exact number on the top of my head. Let's suppose it can take 10 hits. Okay. So I'm going to give house number 1 10 hit points. I'll do the same for the other houses as well. House 3, house 4, house 1. Okay. So this collection of, we'll just call them buildings. Buildings have an ID number and hit points number. I'm going to click this button and it resets things, and I'll set a horizontal gallery to those houses, to those buildings. I'll set this to the buildings. Take a picture inside. We'll replace this later. Okay, for our testing purposes, I'll go ahead and include the number of hit points that it has. Okay. So my gallery of buildings is ready. Eventually, once I have all the pictures, I'll use a switch, the switch command. I could even start it here if I wanted to. I put this in some commenting code. Eventually, this is what I want. Switch this item at HP. If I have 10 HP, then I want to have the picture for full HP. If I have 9 HP, I want this picture, and then so on. So I'll be using a switch there. But for our purposes, we'll just go ahead and use the sample image for now. Okay, so we have that ready. I'll go ahead and for this reset button, let's, instead of resetting the creature to the top, let's reset the creature to the bottom. So that's taking the parent height minus the height of that image. Okay, so now it's at the bottom of the screen. I'll rename this image as well. Call it the hero sprite. Okay, let's save our progress so that we don't lose anything. The images is the easy part. Getting all the functionality is the hard part, so we'll make it pretty at a later time. Okay. All right, so our buildings are set. Going back to my checklist. Oh, sorry about that. Did you guys not see the screen earlier? Okay. All right, so I have the collection of the houses. I don't have the pictures of the homes yet. Let's go ahead and create the invaders and then show if they're hit. Okay. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to open up Excel. It's going to let me create a table of the amount of invaders there are. I'm going to go back to the game. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 11 in each row. And then each of those creatures has a different value. Okay. I'm going to borrow this information. I'm going to repeat that inside Excel. So I have a row, a column, and I have the value of this creature, Space Invader. Okay, so for row 1, let's also include an ID number. And repeat this 11 times. So there's, so for row 1, it's going to have 11 different creatures, each with their own. If there's 5 groups of 11, I'm going to need 55. Okay, I'll fill this down. I'm going to need this column repeated 5 times. Row 1 has those. Row 2 has these. Row 3. Row 4. And row 5. And then I'm going to reset this game so that I recall the value that they have. Okay, 10 points for the first one. 10, 20, 40. There's 2 rows of these. 2 rows of these. A row of this type. Okay, there really is a 56th one. We'll call that row 6. We'll keep it out because we're going to use some different triggers for it. I have my basic table, and I need a status column. I'll format this as a table. I'll rename the table. We'll call this Space Invaders. Okay, by default, I'm going to set their status to true, meaning they're still alive. And I'll go ahead and take this one step further. We'll put a stage here. Different stages are going to have different amounts. For our purposes, we'll just build stage 1, and then we could scale out after we make this minimum, after we find minimum success here. Okay. I won't need this. I won't need this as connected data. We're just using it as static data. Okay, going back into my app, I insert that table as static data. Okay. Now, at this time, I think it's a good time to hide some of these things that we've set up so that we have more space. So I'm going to set up the debugging panel. This gear is going to set a variable from debug, that's called debug. We'll flip it off if debug is true. We'll flip it on if debug is false. And for my debugging panels, I like to use the canvas control. So I go to New Screen, Screen, and then insert a screen with a scrollable screen. I'm going to steal this from this screen, Control X, and I'll bring it to screen 1. I'll delete that screen since I'm only borrowing this thing from it. Okay, the Y value, I'll set it to 0. Okay. This screen, I'm going to make it visible when debug is true. Okay. I'm going to take all these things, move it in here. One more thing I'll do to this debugging panel. I'm going to fill it. I'm going to give it a background fill of 75% white. So I get white, but only 75%. And I'll move this icon to the top. Okay. And show and hide those things as I need to. Brings me some more space. Bring this button as well. Okay, now I just have the gaming elements on the screen. Let's save. Go ahead and insert gallery. It'll be a vertical gallery for all the Space Invaders. This one. In the debugging panel, I'm going to go back to that reset button. I'm going to collect that table to a local collection. Clear collect, filter the Space Invaders so that the stage equals stage 1. I want all the records where stage is stage 1, which is all of them by chance. Okay. I save that to a collection that I'm calling Invaders. Get the same data. The reason why I want it in a collection is static data can't change. Okay. Gallery of Space Invaders. So now I have the collection of invaders that I just made. What I want to do with this gallery is make it wrap 11 times. I will show an image for each of them and a label for them. We're going to make this much smaller. Let's make the template size smaller so it can fit all the creatures. Okay. Oh, I know what my mistake is. The gallery control has a limit of wrapping 10 times. So let's restructure this. I'm thinking we restructure it by, let's see, how deep do I want this? Restructure it so it's by row. We'll make it a horizontal gallery. So it's a horizontal gallery. I want to sort it by row. Let's see. I want the wrap count to be 5. Okay, let's go back to columns. Let me try changing the order here. Going back to my table, let me think. In column 1, I'll sort it by the column and then the row. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, I want this text box to show what column it's in. And the row. Okay. I want the row descending. Okay, so the very first right. So column 1, the first invader is here, and then the last invader, number 5, is going to be the one that's most valuable for scoring. Okay, so I have my gallery of invaders. Eventually, I'll get rid of this text box. For now, I'm just keeping it in. All right. And we want this thing to shift around the screen, up and down, left and right. Let's make it smaller. Okay, and then we'll make this okay, that's more manageable. We'll fine tune it later. Now we have our basic setup. We'll call this the gallery of invaders. And let's save our progress. Go back to my checkbox. Okay. So we made a collection of HP for all the houses. Okay, I'll check that off. We have gallery of the invaders. Let's make this a second requirement. Make a toggle that shows if it's hit. Okay. We may need to make this missile first. So to make a missile, let's do an input spacebar for missile. Okay, so if somebody types in a spacebar, we want it to send a missile. Missile from that direction. Okay. Let's go ahead and set that up. Go back into my debugging panel. Let's just make a copy of another one of these. And instead of the letter D, I change the default to space. So if I were to type space, oh, let's bring this to the top. If I were to type in a space, exit right here. We just need to decide what we want those actions to be. So the onCheck property of this thing, we will make an action for firing a missile. Okay. The way I'm going to create the missile, it's going to have this giant grid on the screen. This grid's going to have a collection of the missiles. Jumping into my debugging panel, rename some controls. Input missile. I'm going to use a collection for those missiles. They'll start at a certain point, and then the way I'll program it is a timer for each of them. We'll make them animate and go forward. Okay, so collect missiles. Missile is going to have a certain starting point. Have an ID number. That ID number is going to be the maximum of the ID numbers that it currently has. It'll start at the location of the creature. So the location of the creature is image sprite. Call it the X position. And we want the midpoint of the creature, because if we use X position, it's going to be the left side of that creature. We want it at the midpoint of where that creature is. So I'm going to take the image hero sprite, width divided by 2. So I add half of its width to find what's the midpoint. Okay, and then let's put a status. Is this missile done firing? Did it have contact? Make it false, so it's still running. Okay, comma here. Change this commenting code to collect a missile. A collection. All right. Now, this gallery is going to function a little bit differently than what you might be used to. I'll start by renaming it. I will insert a picture that will be our stand-in for the missile that's fired. Let's also set some parameters for the missile's size, like how big do I want that missile? Go into this data card. Now insert a slider. Okay, let me move these things out of the way. Okay, so here's slider 2. I'll go ahead and rename it. Slider missiles. Slider is good for storing numbers. Right now it's storing the numbers 0 to 100. It's currently stored at set at 50. I want the missile to be, I want it to be, we're going to use this for the width of the missile. So we'll have its width about 40 pixels. Okay, jumping back to my missile. Its width set to slider missile dot x. Okay. I'll do the same for its height. So let's make it taller and it is wide. Back to that missile. And I want it to be the smaller number, and I want its height to be the bigger number. Okay. Okay, so the missile in this gallery, you'll see it's not really starting down here. Now let's do the complicated thing. I'm going to set this gallery so that it has a template size of 0. You'll see all of the missiles, all the images for that missile collapse over here. Let's do another thing. Each of those missiles is going to need its own timer. We'll want that missile to fire for 1 second. It's 1,000 milliseconds. I want that missile to start at this given time. Let's give each of those missiles a start time as well. Give it a starting position. And we also need to give that missile a let me jump back. Oh, a start time. Okay, jumping back to my missiles. When this timer ends, I want it to update that missile to say it's finished. So let's go into the on timer end. I'm going to attach the missiles where I get this exact missile, this item. And let's change some of its properties. So the status is going to be turned to false. Just check some columns. Oh, status is true. Okay. Okay. When the timer ends, it turns the status to true, meaning let's flip it so that we don't confuse ourselves. We'll flip it false to show that it's done. Okay, So if that missile has just been launched, it's true. When the missile's done, it'll be flipped to false. We're going to use that condition on this timer. This timer is only going to be running if this item dot status is true. Don't need it to repeat or reset. Okay, then the image of the missile, its Y value, I'm going to set it to the height of the gallery. Subtract height of the gallery, subtract itself, as the timer is counting up. So timer 1.value divided by timer 1.duration. I want the X property of this missile to be this item dot starting position. Go back into gallery missiles and set the padding to 0. Save what we have. And then we'll fire a missile. Holy moly. Okay. So the missile firing is working. We'll eventually get rid of those missiles. Next, we're going to need some kind of detection on if it's colliding, if it's collided with an object. Okay. Now, let's check what we have. We made the space bar shoot the missile, collected the missile to the gallery, and make collision. So the collision part is going to be, okay, so we made the gallery for the invaders. The collision part is going to take place inside the gallery of the invaders. We'll make the gallery move around later. That's in the original game. The Space Invaders move around. For our purposes, we'll keep them static until we figure out how to make them move. Okay, so let's make some collision detection. I go into the gallery of the invaders. Each part of this gallery is going to have a label and an image. I also want it to have a toggle. Okay, this toggle is actually going to be hidden. We're going to use it for detection. But before we move on, let's program this gallery the same way that we did the other one, where I have a template size of 0. We'll be able to understand positioning a lot better that way. So let's do some math. Let me hide this first. Okay. So I'll set the template size to 0. Hit shift everything together. This image, I want it to be set to, okay, right now we have this little bug where it adds 1 pixel for every part of the gallery it's in. I'm going to set it equal to this item dot column. Subtract that. Okay. I want its Y value. I want the Y value of this image Let me check a few things. Okay, stick them all in one. I'm going to have this I'll account for this later. We'll just make it 0 for now. Okay. We do need to account for it. So I'm going to take the current column amount, and I'm going to multiply it by so I want its x position to be equal to whatever column it is, every 40, whatever pixels that I had set for the width of the missile or the monster. I don't think I have a slider for that. Let's make one. So I'll insert a slider for the creature. We'll make the creature 40 pixels wide as well. We'll make them square. Okay. So I go back to that creature. That creature is going to be going to have that much width. And it's going to be moved down its position is going to be whatever row it's in. 5 minus that row, because we want the first guys first. So we're inverting this. So row 1 is actually going to be on the bottom, and row 5 is actually going to be at the top. So I invert it by subtracting 5, or 5, subtracting it from 5. I'll multiply it by that same slider amount. Okay, almost getting there. You'll see I need to account for some x distance. Okay. Okay, we'll account for that later. Okay, so I made each of those positions relative to the gallery, because that's going to help us calculate collision. And then I'll take this this label, and I'll make it move with that image. Okay, so it's going to go together. Go ahead and make it the same width and height. Okay. I'm going to go back to that toggle. Okay, here's the fancy part. I'm going to use a condition to detect if any of those missiles is currently in the same like Y position as any of these guys. All right, here goes. This image invader dot y. If it's y position, if it's starting y position, its image position starts at the bottom of it. If its bottom position of the image is if it is equal to, and then let's get one of those missiles. Filter all of the missiles where the image of the missile dot y is equal to this one. Oh, it looks like I can't reference that here. Okay, well, I could still calculate it. Can I go back to the image of the invaders? Toggle. Okay, I'm gonna look at the location of that. Okay, so pretty much what I'm trying to do here is look at all the missiles and see that they hit something. All right, I'm gonna need a break to think about this one. Okay, do you have any ideas on where you would take this? You guys can chat in the group chat, by the way. So I'm trying to figure out, I can't reference the y value of the missile in that context, so I need to figure it out somewhere else. Let me think. I can't reference the y value. Filter the gallery of missiles. Okay. Okay, I have a better idea now. If I look at all the missiles, I only want to see the ones where the status is true. Okay, found the ones where the status is true. I'm going to look at the timer for that. Okay, and from that, if I only want to see the ones where the missile is in between a certain X range. So if the let's identify where the position of the invader is. Okay, I'm going to copy the X value. Okay, I want the creatures, I want the missiles that are close to this creature. So if I take, here's the current X position. Okay. If the starting position of that missile is bigger than the starting, the leftmost part of this image, and it's less than the rightmost side of this picture, okay, and its current position is less than or equal to smallest part of this, the lowest part of this image. Okay, if this is not empty, make this true. Okay, I'm going to put some commenting code here so I don't forget what I did. Okay. If you look at all the missiles that are active, in other words, the ones with a status of true, check if the X position is between the location of a given invader. Then see if its Y position has passed the then check if the missile's Y position has passed the Y position of an invader. Okay. I'm going to flip this to, I'm going to show this toggle again, just so that we can show that it's working. All right, this toggle, I want it to be at the same position as the invader. Okay, if if I fire this missile, it should work correctly. And, all right, let's move closer. So if I push the space bar, I fire a missile, and okay, the conditions didn't go off there. Status is true. Okay, position. Starting position is between here. I think this part I need to figure out. It needs to resolve the specific timer here. Oh. All right, I think it has to do with this collision part here. So here I'm checking if that missile has hit this area. Okay, what can I do here? It needs to reference the respective timer. If it's not referencing the respective timer, it's not going to work. Okay. Let's give this ID number a specific name so I don't encounter any other issues. Okay, I'm going to perform a lookup to the respective timer. Where the missile ID matches the one I'm talking about. Actually, go ahead and put this inside a data table and see what's going on. I want to see the value of timer 1. I want to see the starting positions. Let's step back a little bit. Go into this data table. And let's see all the, let me comment this out. Just want to see all of the invaders that are within a certain position. Okay, so if the starting position is greater than or equal to Let's select one. Let's pick an arbitrary number. Okay, which ones are between this range? I want to show those. Okay, so what I'm doing so far is I'm looking at the missiles and then seeing which ones are between a range. What I should be doing is doing the inverse, looking at the creatures and seeing which which one is in a certain range. That's lined up with the image where I am. Let's start with that as in the meantime. Okay. All right. I'm going to filter the invaders. The invaders to show the ones whose position, whose X position, that's the position of the creature. If it is if the creature has an X position that is less than to the position of the invader, and it needs to be greater than, and it's less than. Okay, I got it. So my creature, this image, needs to be between one of those Space Invaders. Okay. Let's show these fields. Let's show which row and column this creature's in. All right, if I play this, should be things popping up here. Hmm. Figure out the position of these creatures a little bit more. Ah, I know. We need to compensate for the location of the gallery. Ah, okay, so it's working. So at any position that this creature's in, right now it's saying, if I fire a missile, I can reach these creatures. Hmm. Reversed. Okay, almost there. All right, so I'm going to use a label to explore what's actually being compared here. Okay. So it's starting at this position, and it's compensating. Hmm. Okay, it's almost there. So suppose something is in column 4, it would be at his starting position. If it's in column 11, here, it's at 440. So something about the column is not lining up, right? Deciding that column plus this. Oh, I know what it is. It's not using gallery invaders. Okay, now. There we go. Now this gallery is, this data table is going to show me which, at any given time, which creatures can I shoot. Holy moly. Okay, so I come back. All right. One final condition is, now that I'm in the correct column, okay, I need to fix this somewhere else. Okay, now I'm in the correct column. I need to see if it's in the same Y. So I got it in the X direction. I need to figure out the Y direction now. Okay. I'll move this out. Okay. Let's put this down as a check mark. detect an invader is in the same X direction in the Y direction. Okay, so we're checking these things off as we go along. Let's track one here so that it starts at the base location. Otherwise, it'll always be off. Okay, so I'm taking this item.column1, multiplying by this. I want to see this a little bit more. Okay, so here's my Space Invader. I kind of want them side by side a little bit more. Let me go back to my table. I wanted to subtract Okay, well, I'll just keep it at this point for now, and I'll explore it a little bit more later. Well, I could take some questions at this time, and then I'll jump on a live video at a later time where I make some more progress. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat window. Let's see. So putting on my to-do list, I'll detect the Y direction, and so on. Change image to being hit and being hit. Same thing for the buildings. Change the image and it's hit. All right. Well, thanks for joining this live screen share. I'll try to do some more of this so that you can see what somebody thinking when they're making an app like Space Invaders. I'll try to schedule the next one either today or tomorrow, later today or tomorrow, as I think a few things through. Okay, have a good rest of your weekend.